Welcome back. So I have a quick video here that I'm gonna do on my fleet. Not so much comparison, but here you do get a comparison on the sizes. Pretty much mostly on what Blade offers and your 700s and whatnot, and what a scale 700 looks like in comparison to a Pod and Boom 3D Heli 700 size. So I'm gonna just touch base on what I prefer to fly, and I just kind of want to say why, and it's never really biased on my end. It's just because some things are just designed better, and to me, in my opinion, they're just more convenient when it comes to as far as helicopters go for RC. What I look into, the first thing what I look for in a helicopter is exactly when I'm flying and when I'm crashing, is how it crashes and how much of it survives. Exactly, the main one is how it flies and handles in the air, how it performs, and also ease of setup and repair. So that's what I'm gonna narrow it down to. And to me, just to get it off my chest, it's gonna be that Fusion 480 stretched to a 550. And that's just because the way it's designed is just so simple, and it flies very close to a 700. It's just much lighter than a 700, so it flies. The power band is, and the power to weight ratio is just so much better, and it just feels like I can toss that thing around in the air. And when I fly a 700, of course it's a night and day difference just because of the presence in the air. But I always find myself, you know, resorting back to my Blade Fusion 480 stretched to 550. I've crashed it multiple times. I think I have like a total of 5 to 6 crashes on this one. And as far as all my crashes have gone, I've only had to replace, um, well, first crash I damaged the one frame panel. That's because I crashed on concrete. Battery died. I didn't charge it. I thought I charged it, and it shattered the one of the right side carbon fiber panel, and the landing gear, the bolts um, just sheared right off. They just snapped off. So that's all I had to replace. And oh yeah, and the tail fin that chipped at the end, but it didn't break. Main and feathering shaft and tail shaft are straight. Then I crashed it again, uh, attempting to perform a flight maneuver, and crashed that straight into a bush. Nothing happened to it. Just picked it right up, dusted off, and make sure everything was okay. I think the only thing that broke on that um, in that crash was the swash to blade grip links. The rod end snapped. Servos are holding up pretty good, and then the other crashes, well, those were pretty much. I'd say it with comparison in comparison to the 700, it's heavier, of course, and if it's like on a line or something like this, or anything with the tail boom supports, you're gonna break things for sure. And anything that bends or twists or just fractures, you gotta replace it anyways. So you're in it for the money at that point. Like my 700 Tron back there, my 7.0, that one's a pretty solid machine as well, and I think it's kind of designed in the same way that the Fusion 550 is. I mean, it's I to me it seems like the same kind of layout, and it's not like I'm comparing apples to oranges here anymore. It's pretty much the same thing. You got the washout mixing arms, the main head, swash plate, the optimized servo geometry layout. The tail is the only thing that kind of catches it's like eye candy on the Tron. And the Tron, as far as that goes too, I mean, the Tron's probably one of my favorite 700s to fly, and that's also because crashability, design wise, and of course I prefer to fly my Tron, but it's also a bigger machine. you gotta carry more packs. It take longer to fly. I mean, charge, and you get less flights out of them because you're running 2 packs at a time. And with my 550, I'm running 1 pack. So with those 2 packs that I was running on my Tron, I get 2 flights out of my 550. So that's my kind of my deal breaker, to put it in that sense. So to me, it's the 550, and I don't think I'll get any other 550 helicopter brands. I'm just gonna stick to the Blade one, just because the design's, that good. So here it is. I mean, for anyone that wants a Blade helicopter, don't get discouraged. I mean, I know they focus on beginner helicopters, but throw your own electronics on there, and it'll fly just as good as the other ones. I don't know. I'm not being biased or anything. It's an unbiased review. Otherwise, why would I have any other helicopter brands in my fleet? And when it does come down to my 700s, I do choose to fly my Align 700L just because it's older and it's very smooth. Right? It's different from the Tron just because of the torque tube. But of course, in a crash, you're gonna have a lot of things breaking on the torque tube. But yeah, so then that also brings me to one more helicopter that I do prefer to fly when I'm not flying the 550 or the 700s. The one I always fly the most, probably on a daily basis, on a day-to-day basis, it's gonna be my Fusion 360. That one I can charge like 6 packs, and if I'm out in the field where I have no charger, I'll charge like 6 or 7 packs, and I'll just take those with me, and they charge pretty quick with the smart charger. I think I charge them pretty fast anyways. I cycle I don't really care, how you're affecting the faster you charge your battery packs, you affect their battery life too. But I'm charging them like at 10 amps, so they charge within like 25 to 30 minutes or less. So yeah, I mean the Fusion 360 is a very good alternative, and you don't have to build it. It's already pre-assembled. It's identical to the Fusion 550. I actually have two 360s just because I like it that much. Now, there are other helicopters that I do like, and I've seen that, Goose Guy has released RS, I believe RS4. It's got a main direct drive main motor and whatnot. So that's cool. I mean, I look forward to that one day. But I don't really. I mean, if you're crashing a lot, I guess it's a great benefit to have, and it's good for autos and all that stuff. But I mean, once you get your orientations, or you just you can fly better in forward flight, whatever. You're kind of crashing less, and it doesn't really matter whether it's direct drive or not. And yeah, I mean it doesn't. I mean, just don't crash. Just stay in the air, and you'll be fine. And it's not as simple as saying it, but it's just the nature of the hobby. You're gonna crash regardless. So my main thing is, if just fly what you can afford. I mean, if you can afford it all, fine. But I can afford crashing the Fusion 360 all day. It just makes it much easier on the wallet. Now the 550, on the other hand, you're already spending 200, well over 200, to get that back up and flying, just because of the main blades. With $100, I'll buy myself 3 sets of main blades for my Fusion 360. So I mean, it just depends how you feel. I mean, if it's too much money, kind of stay away from it until your skills kind of take over, and you don't have to worry so much about crashing. I'm not a hardcore pilot, but I don't really crash as much as I used to before. I mean, I'll probably see a crash every, I don't know. I had my helicopters on the bench maybe every 5 months or so. I sometimes I try to learn new things, but for the most part, if you ask me what helicopters am I crashing, it's either the Fusion 360 or for sure my micros. I crash these like every freaking month because they're just so squirty, and they get out of hand pretty quick, and you lose sight, and they do crash. And but the thing about the micro ones is that they're cheap to fix. I purchased about $500 in parts, and you're good to go for a while. And if you're disciplined when you're flying and you just try to progress slowly, then you'll go through less parts, and they should last a pretty long time. And here's one of my favorite micros. It's just because of how locked in it is. And that's going to be the OMPM1 Evo. This one's awesome, guys. This is a good bird. But here it is. Anyone who wants to get into this hobby, unbiased review. Micro helicopter, I'd say go with something this size. Go with the OMPM1. That's a very stable helicopter. It's kind of like flying a drone in stability mode, and when you're flying in 3D or any stunt modes, it just feels like you're flying something much bigger. It's so stable, so locked in. It feels like I'm flying my Fusion 360. Now, why would I want a 360 at that point then? It's just presence. I mean, this is so small. Just depends on your flying style, and I like big air. I like to go pretty high and dive it down and do all these barrel rolls and TikToks and stuff like that. And sometimes it just comes down to vision, how far you can see. So this is my indoor flyer, and I surprisingly have not crashed this at all indoors, and I've had this for a pretty long time. Very durable. I have like every part for this to crash it like maybe 20 times, and that's, I feel like that was a waste of money because this thing's just so damn easy to fly. I haven't had to crash it. So, well, I haven't come around to crash it. I don't look forward to it, but it happens. Well, then it's part of the hobby, like I said. Nano S3 is also a great option. Now, here's where you guys are gonna kind of have to choose. The OMPM1 is a great learning platform, but again, it's high head speed. It's a heavier helicopter, so it requires a high head speed to get off the ground. Flying indoors is not an option for everybody. You hit something or someone, you're gonna hurt them pretty bad. You hit something, you're gonna damage it, your walls, whatever it is, and that's not so much the case with the Nano S3. Nano S3, these plates are like paper thin. They crack. Everything here is sacrificial. You gotta understand that these beginner helicopters are made of plastic because they're sacrificial parts. This one's good for kids, adults that want to get into it. Very cheap to fix, and super light. I mean, if you get hit by this, of course it'll hurt, but I don't think it'll hurt anybody too bad or anything. In that case, helicopter will probably sustain the most damage, and with that said too, it won't sustain that much damage just because of how light it is and how small it is. But the main blades on this do crack fairly easy when they strike any hard surfaces. But it's an awesome helicopter. I used to love flying this around in the house, but just now that I moved on to my own PM1, I just can't. And I hardly fly this. It's cool, but it's nice to have. Sometimes it's so much quieter as well. This is much louder. It's a high performance machine for sure. Infusion 180, pretty cool. I mean, this is direct drive like any other newer helicopter. Very stable. It's awesome. I hardly fly this one though. I just kind of want to Honestly, had to have it just to complete the whole collection. And as you guys can see, I bought three Fusion 180s. These are all the smart versions. It's just some of them have the version 1 parts, canopy and landing gear. It's just a great helicopter. I mean, it's sometimes I don't have time to buy parts or rebuild. I mean, it's just I'd rather just crash one and jump onto the next and go from there, and then just repair them as I go, because that's my go-to micro when I'm outdoors because of the tail authority. The collective tail is what makes it for me. That's a deal breaker to me. But of course, the OMPM1 performs pretty good with the tail. That's because it speeds up the head speed and slows down the head speed so that the tail can move both ways at the same rate. The Fusion 270 I hardly fly. That's a great helicopter, and I'm very happy that Horizon Hobby hasn't discontinued any part to this, and that they kept supporting their customers. And you guys I've already spoken about the other ones. Like I said, my 360s, just depends on the time and day, how much time I have on my hands. 360 is gonna be something that's gonna be pretty big. I want something floaty, something that I can learn on. Because the smaller you go, it's harder to learn maneuvers. They just get out of hand. It's much harder to learn on. Bigger you go, the easier it is to learn. Just because you feel like you're more in control, which you are. Just because the helicopter doesn't really get away from you. It's just more locked in. The presence, just everything feels slow motion. But see, when I really want to learn something, I'll go to my 550. It's a cheaper thing to crash, cheaper thing to repair, easier to repair. Um, and yeah, I mean, the Tron is just as easy and as simple as a Blade Fusion 550. It's just that it's crashing that thing's too beautiful and too expensive to repair. I mean, that's kind of a luxury there now. It's not a it's not the one I want to crash at that point. I haven't crashed that one, and I don't look forward to crashing it. I haven't crashed any of my 700s. It's just harder to crash, to be honest. It's just because they're so big. I mean, you have so much more control, and my 550 is super light. It's got so much power that I can get out of control sometimes, and things are gonna happen, and if they do, it's okay. I mean, it's a cheaper model to fix, and it's very sturdy. But if you're crashing over grass or dirt, I mean, preferably grass, because dirt gets into your electronic components and bearings, you will have very minimal damages. I haven't had a boom strike, and if you do, I mean, that boom's pretty solid. But I'm just so surprised that after all the 6 crashes I've had on that, 5 to 6 crashes, my main shaft is straight as it was when it was brand new, and my feathering shaft blade strikes straight, no vibration, super smooth. Bearings are very smooth. I believe it's like 2 years old, or possibly 3. I believe I got it in 2019 or early 2020. So it's about 3 years old, and this thing is just hasn't had me, chasing like problems like vibrations or noises. It's been very good to me, and it's not the only one I have. I actually have 2 of these, other ones in the box. I do have my Saab 700, and that's something that I do fly as well, but that one's just too complex as far as the design. Crashing that one is gonna be probably the worst one of all, just because crashing that thing, you're already in like $400 in parts and unnecessary parts. Just parts to get it back up and looking pretty. I mean, as far as everything else goes, I haven't crashed it. Like I said, they're harder to crash when they're bigger, just because you feel like you're more in control. The confidence is all there, and you just feel more in control. So with the Saab and the Tron, I prefer the Tron. just because I feel like I can crash that thing and I'll be happy. I feel like the only thing that's gonna go is my canopy. I don't think the landing gear will go. My lower mainframes might separate, uh, might crack. That's fine. It's like $45, $50. My boom might, bend, or blades might strike it. It's another 40. Tail blades possibly won't go. Tail belt, I don't have to worry about any of the drivetrain. I don't think my main gear will go. I'd have to crash pretty hard, and my main blades possibly will go. I don't know if my feathering shaft or my main shaft will go. I mean, I've never crashed a 700 other than crashing my recent, my first Robin Blackhawk. That did not end well. That thing was shattered into pieces and it was practically gone. Pod and boom survived. Nothing happened to it. Just my fuselage was just junk. Oh, and yeah, and here's once again, the Blade 330S. Also a cool helicopter, but put a fuselage on it, and I really don't fly this. It's just a kind of a display model now. So, flies very nice though. Get you guys yourself a helicopter. Start small or start big. If you're starting big, I'd say go with something like the Fusion 360. That's still affordable. Parts are pretty nice on that one. Everything comes in pairs of 2, I believe. You get a boom in pairs of 2, main shaft pairs of 2, feathering shaft pair of 2, main blades of course pair of 2. Blade grips, everything comes, in a way that you'll be in the air more. You benefit more at that point, and every parts bag is about 15 to 25 to $30. So it's pretty affordable, and you'll learn much faster, in my opinion. The Blade Fusion 480, parts are all about, every parts bag is about 15 and up. Actual parts about 20 and up. So to repair my Fusion, every time I had to repair it was always like 50 to $100, and my most expensive repair was when I damaged my blades. I snapped them, and that ran me. I just bought an entire stretch kit, so that was 125 plus the links. That was another $10, so that's 135, and that was it. I believe that was all. So there you have it. All right, guys. Bye bye.